The sun beat down with relentless fury, the air shimmered with heat. This was the heart of the desert, a place of unforgiving beauty. Survival here was a challenge, a test of man and machine. The silence was broken only by the wind. It whispered tales of adventure and danger. The desert was a harsh mistress. She could be alluring, beautiful and deadly all at once. Her embrace was warm, her kiss was fire. Only the brave dared to venture into her domain, but for those who did, the rewards were immeasurable. Jack was not a man to back down from a challenge. He thrived on the edge where most would falter. His life was a series of daring escapades, each more thrilling than the last. He lived for the thrill, the rush of adrenaline that surged through his veins with every new adventure. The desert, with its vast, uncharted expanses, was his ultimate playground. The adrenaline rush of pushing himself to the limit was his addiction. Every dune, every rocky outcrop was a new challenge, a new test of his mettle. Today, the desert was his arena. The endless sand stretched out before him, a canvas of golden hues and treacherous paths. It was a place where only the strong survived. His chariot, a beast of a 4x4, gleamed under the desert sun. It was more than just a vehicle. It was an extension of himself, a symbol of his relentless spirit. It was his weapon, his shield, his lifeline in this unforgiving land. The desert was merciless, but Jack was prepared for whatever it threw at him. The vehicle was no ordinary machine. It was a testament to Jack's ingenuity. Every modification, every reinforced part was a result of countless hours of labor and love. Heavily modified, reinforced and equipped to conquer any terrain, it was built to withstand the harshest conditions. The all-terrain tires, the reinforced chassis, everything was designed for one purpose: survival. Its engine, a roaring beast, was ready to devour the miles. The powerful roar of the engine was music to Jack's ears, a symphony of power and precision. Jack gripped the steering wheel, a steely glint in his eyes. His focus was unwavering, his determination unbreakable. He was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The desert awaited, and he was eager to face its fury. With a deep breath, he pressed down on the accelerator, and the beast roared to life, charging forward into the unknown. The adventure had just begun. The desert called to Jack. It whispered promises of adventure, of testing his limits. He wasn't here to conquer the desert. He was here to meet it on its terms, to respect its power and embrace its wild beauty. This journey was a pilgrimage, a quest for self-discovery. The roar of the engine was his battle cry. He ventured deeper into the heart of the desert. The sun beat down on him, testing his resolve, but Jack was undeterred. He was in his element. The thrill of the unknown coursed through his veins. The first obstacle loomed large, massive dunes of sand, sculpted by the wind into ever-shifting peaks and valleys. They stood as sentinels, guarding the secrets of the desert. The sand, fine and golden, could swallow a vehicle whole. But Jack was prepared. He lowered the tire pressure, increasing their surface area. The engine roared as he climbed the first dune, the vehicle groaning in protest. The descent was a controlled fall, a dance on the edge of control. Jack navigated the sandy mountains with skill and precision. Section 5. A rocky trap. Leaving the dunes behind, Jack entered a labyrinth of canyons and dry riverbeds. The terrain was unforgiving, a jagged landscape of rocks and crevices. The 4x4 rattled and shook, its suspension pushed to the limit. Jack pressed on, his focus unwavering. The sun beat down relentlessly, baking the earth. The air was thick with the smell of dust and heat. Jack could feel the sweat trickling down his back, but he didn't care. He was in the zone, his senses heightened, his every action fueled by adrenaline. Section 6. Trapped. Disaster struck as Jack attempted to cross a seemingly dry riverbed. The surface, baked solid by the sun, gave way. The 4x4 lurched violently, its front end wedged tightly between the steep banks. The wheels spun uselessly, throwing up a spray of sand and pebbles. Jack's heart pounded. He was trapped. The sun beat down mercilessly. He knew he had to act fast. Panic was a luxury he couldn't afford. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm. He needed to assess the situation and formulate a plan. Section 7. A test of grit. Jack surveyed his surroundings, his mind racing. The vast expanse of the desert stretched out before him, an unforgiving landscape that seemed to mock his predicament. The sun blazed overhead, casting long shadows and making the air shimmer with heat. Jack wiped the sweat from his brow, his thoughts a whirlwind of strategies and possibilities. He needed traction, a way to free the vehicle. The off-road adventure had taken an unexpected turn, and now he was faced with the challenge of getting his 4x4 out of the deep sand. The wheels were buried, and every attempt to move forward only seemed to dig them in deeper. Jack knew he had to act fast before the situation worsened. His eyes fell on a pile of rocks, remnants of a long-gone flash flood. These rocks, scattered and weathered by time, held the key to his escape. He could almost hear the distant echoes of the water that once flowed through this now arid land. The rocks were his only hope, and he had to make them work. An idea sparked in his mind. He could use the rocks to create a makeshift ramp, something solid enough to give the tires the grip they needed. Determination set in, and Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face the challenge head-on. He grabbed his shovel and set to work, the desert heat bearing down on him. Each shovelful of sand was a battle against the elements, but Jack was relentless. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the sweat poured off him in rivulets. His muscles ached, but he pushed through the pain, driven by the need to free his vehicle. He built a ramp of rocks, painstakingly creating a solid base for the tires. Each rock was carefully placed, forming a path that he hoped would be sturdy enough to support the weight of the 4x4. It was a meticulous process requiring both strength and precision. Jack's hands were raw and blistered, but he didn't stop. Hours ticked by, each movement an agonizing test of his endurance. The desert seemed to stretch on forever, and the relentless sun showed no mercy. Jack's energy waned, but his resolve never faltered. He knew that giving up was not an option. Every rock he placed brought him one step closer to freedom. Finally, with the last rock in place, he climbed back into the 4x4. His body was exhausted, but his spirit was unbroken. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was it, the culmination of his efforts. He turned the key in the ignition, his heart pounding in his chest. The engine roared, and with a surge of power, the vehicle broke free. The tires gripped the rocky ramp, and the 4x4 lurched forward, finally escaping the clutches of the sand. Jack let out a triumphant shout, the sound echoing across the empty desert. He had done it. He had overcome the odds. Jack had conquered the riverbed. The sense of accomplishment was overwhelming, and he felt a deep connection to the rugged landscape around him. This test of grit had pushed him to his limits, but it had also shown him the strength he possessed. As he drove away, the desert stretched out behind him, a testament to his resilience and determination. Section 8. Desert Night. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the desert transformed. The oppressive heat gave way to a chilling cold. The sky exploded in a riot of colors, painting the sand dunes in shades of purple and orange. Jack built a fire, the flames dancing against the encroaching darkness. The silence was absolute, broken only by the crackling of the fire. Jack ate a simple meal, his gaze drawn to the millions of stars that littered the night sky. Out here, far from civilization, the universe felt immense, and he felt incredibly small, yet strangely connected to it all. Section 9. The Final Challenge. The final obstacle appeared in the pale moonlight. A narrow canyon, its path blocked by a rock slide. Massive boulders dislodged from the canyon walls formed an impassable barrier. Jack was exhausted, but his spirit remained unbroken. He had come too far to be denied. He studied the rock slide, searching for a weakness. He noticed a gap, a narrow passage barely wide enough for the 4x4. It was a risky maneuver, but it was his only option. He took a deep breath, summoning his remaining strength. Section 10. Victory! With nerves of steel, Jack edged the 4x4 through the narrow gap. The canyon walls loomed ominously on either side, their jagged edges threatening to tear the vehicle apart. Every movement had to be precise, every decision calculated. Jack's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white with tension. The vehicle scraped against the rocks, the sound echoing through the canyon. It was a harsh, grating noise that seemed to reverberate through Jack's very bones. Each scrape was a reminder of the peril he faced, a testament to the unforgiving nature of the terrain. He inched forward, millimeter by millimeter, his heart pounding in his chest. Sweat trickled down his forehead, stinging his eyes, but he didn't dare wipe it away. His focus was absolute, his determination unwavering. The narrow passage seemed endless, a gauntlet that tested his resolve at every turn. Then, with a final burst of power, he was through. The vehicle surged forward, breaking free from the rocky confines. Relief washed over Jack, but he knew the journey was far from over. The desert still lay ahead, vast and unyielding. As the sun rose, painting the canyon walls in hues of gold and crimson, Jack stood on the other side, victorious. The first light of dawn cast long shadows, creating a breathtaking tapestry of colours. It was a moment of pure triumph, a hard-earned victory against the odds. He had faced the desert's fury and emerged triumphant. The endless expanse of sand and rock had tried to break him, but he had persevered. Each challenge had been a stepping stone, each obstacle a test of his mettle. The desert had tested him, pushed him to his limits, and he had proven himself. The harsh environment had demanded everything he had, and he had given it willingly. His determination had been his greatest ally, his willpower his most potent weapon. He felt a surge of exhilaration, a sense of invincibility. The trials he had faced had forged him into something stronger, something more resilient. The desert had not defeated him. It had made him more formidable. He had stared into the face of danger and emerged stronger, more alive than ever before. The experience had been transformative, a crucible that had refined his spirit. Jack knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with the same unyielding resolve. The desert had been a worthy adversary, but he had proven that he was more than equal to the task.